Hello, and thank you for visiting Leezah's Lair. I hope this is not your first time visiting this channel, but if it is, welcome. The avatar in front of you is Leezah Smiles. Of course, you already know that if you are a regular visitor to this channel. Leezah's Lair is a channel for the older adults in Second Life. I mention that in each video because even though this channel is nearly 5 years old now, it is still gaining subscribers. A lot of the older adults in Second Life do not even know that this YouTube channel exists. I do not have a home per se in Second Life because my avatar lives in the tent that you see right behind my chair, and I also hold events, discussion events at this campfire. And so whenever there isn't a discussion event, I am free to just use this campfire and have it all to myself, which I enjoy, or to even have some of my own friends over who I communicate with and socialize with in Second Life. So this space is not just for discussion events, but when there is no event scheduled, I have my avatar in the tent. This is the tent, and tents are a very good way of just having a place for your avatar if you do not want to spend a lot of money in Second Life. They already come decorated, and you can just add your own items just to customize it if you want. As we wind down 2019, I want to talk a little bit about just the whole environment of Second Life and how to make Second Life a better experience. I'm not an expert, but I've been in Second Life for almost 8 years. And I know a lot of you out there have been in Second Life since it started. But one area that I think is good for discussion is how to protect yourself online without closing off the opportunity to really have some meaningful interactions in Second Life. I have encountered quite a few people who are very, very suspicious of just everybody that they encounter in Second Life. As the host of 3 discussion events, I often send an IM to someone. Hi, I'm Lee. I host these events. You're certainly welcome to come. And sometimes I get some very strange reactions, like, how do you know me? And where did you meet me? And which sim were you at that I was at? And, just very combative, confrontational type of responses just to somebody who is introducing themselves in Second Life to them. So it's just strange that some people, I guess, have been burned in Second Life to the degree that that's how they respond instantly, even if somebody is just saying, hi, my name is, and this is what I do in Second Life. My advice to anyone who really wants to have a meaningful interaction in Second Life is to respond with kindness if someone is engaging with you with kindness, and not to get into combative, interrogative mode if someone is just engaging with you casually and politely. I do realize, however, that a lot of people are predators, online and even offline, and that they may often start out being very polite and very friendly. And that is very true. That's how some people prey upon people. They start with kindness. However, I still think it's a good idea to respond politely if somebody is engaging with you politely. The other assumption that I wanted to talk about is people who don't use voice online in Second Life. It is a huge deal in Second Life with some people at some sims if there are people who don't use voice. And I just have always found that to be a very curious kind of dynamic, but it is very prevalent. There are people who don't use voice. I hardly ever use voice in Second Life. I prefer to just type out all of my responses in conversation. There are a lot of people who, if you meet them in Second Life, they'll say, well, I want to voice verify you. And I don't understand what that means. What are you verifying exactly? My avatar is a female avatar, and then away from the keyboard, I'm still a female person. However, how is anybody voice verifying anybody in Second Life when there's voice morphing, which means somebody could use, I guess, some application. I don't know how they're used, but there's voice morphing. So basically, you can turn your voice into a child's voice, a man's voice. You can turn your voice into anything using applications. So that's why I don't understand when people mention voice verification. You're never going to be able to do that, really. I think that there are a lot of disabled people in virtual spaces, and this virtual space of Second Life, as well as other virtual worlds, allow people to have more of a social life than maybe they're able to have away from the keyboard. There are people who are deaf, there are people who have a speech impediment, maybe they have a heavy stuttering issue. Maybe they're just shy. They have a lot of people in virtual spaces have social anxiety issues, and so maybe they're not as comfortable expressing themselves on voice as they do when they're typing out a conversation. There are a lot of reasons why there are people who will prefer text chat. And I just think that it's unfortunate that usually there's blanket assumptions made if somebody is never using voice. I remember when I've told this story, but when I first joined Second Life, I was always going to this one very large church sim. And right before I joined Second Life, almost 8 years ago, the sim had obtained a new sim owner. And I guess there was a lot of drama that happened prior to the sim changing hands in terms of ownership. And so when I appeared on this sim, and I would go there every day because there was just a lot of traffic there and a lot of conversations, about religion, about doctrine, things like that. People were saying that I was an alt, and I didn't even know what an alt was. I didn't know the terminology. And then whenever I would ask certain questions, people would say, "Oh, yeah, she's trying to fool us." And they thought I was some other person. I think they thought I was the man who used to own the sim before. I don't know. But it just went on and on for like my first few months of, of being in Second Life. It was so odd. But again, because I wasn't on voice, assumptions were made that somehow I was a suspicious person. And really, when I first joined Second Life, I didn't even have a microphone. That's how, almost 8 years ago, a lot of people didn't have a headset. What would we need a headset for? A lot of people weren't gaming like that. And so it just wasn't an item that people would just automatically have just because they happen to have a laptop. But in Second Life, that became a huge, huge issue at that particular sim. And as I found out later on, pretty much all over the grid about never being on voice. So, as I said, some people are not voicing because they're multitasking. Some people are not voicing because they may have a speech impediment, they may be deaf. In that case, they can't even hear the conversations that are going on with the rest of the people, except for people who happen to be using text chat. I feel bad for somebody who can't hear at all, and they repeatedly go to Sims to try to socialize, and then everybody is practically using voice except for a couple people, and it's just probably hard for them to follow and really participate, not knowing what everybody else is saying actually. But anyway, I also think multitasking is a real thing, and if you're talking on your cell phone, and you're on speakerphone and you're talking to somebody and you're also on your laptop participating in a conversation, then of course you're not going to be using voice because you're talking on your cell phone, and speakerphone. Another thing is, you could be sitting in your home, in your living room with other people in the room with you who are watching TV, or maybe you're watching television as well, and you don't want to turn on your microphone. You would rather just type out a conversation with your laptop on while you're watching television, and you don't want to have, a conversation with other people in the room, or even if you're by yourself and you just happen to be watching your television. There's just a lot of reasons, is my point, of why somebody isn't voicing with you. And I think, that's something to consider. If you are somebody who's very paranoid if somebody isn't voicing, I'm now giving you just some legitimate reasons why people are never voicing. Another assumption that has been made about me in Second Life, and I've mentioned this in some other videos, is that a lot of the male avatars who are actually men, sitting at a keyboard, think that I'm also a man. I have no idea why. At first, I thought it was because my avatar fashion was kind of wonky, because I have a freebie avatar, and I know a lot of women in Second Life put a lot of money into their avatars, and of course I don't. I use Midnight Mania prizes, hunt prizes, group gifts, freebies on the marketplace, retail events. A lot of my avatar has free things, so I thought maybe that's why I was assumed to be a man, because of my avatar fashion. But I've soon found out that it is because I think I communicate assertively, and also I'm intelligent. I have 3 discussion events. I read, I keep up with the news, and I think that there's some sexism involved in thinking that if you encounter somebody who's intelligent and reads the news and, has issue discussions, that it must be a man sitting at a keyboard. So, I usually call that out whenever somebody makes a comment and asks me if I'm a man, at a keyboard, and usually men are the ones inquiring. And a lot of times they'll say, well, the reason why I'm asking is because I've been tricked before in Second Life. And my response to that would be, well, tricked to do what? We're just having a conversation. So, anyway, I hope that this is a good discussion. It is a discussion on assumptions. I think that does impede your quote unquote quality of life in virtual spaces and when you're not in virtual spaces. So, comment below, put some assumptions that you feel are pretty prevalent in Second Life, Sims, communities, whatever. Put some comments below in terms of blanket assumptions and how that impacts, the community all around for all of us. And thank you for visiting Leezah's Lair. Thank you for watching these videos. Please continue to watch more. Comment if you'd like. And I hope you enjoy the last week of 2019.